So, for a quick snapshot of an overview in comparison to 2024, this year we had about 31 troops, less troops selling, 278 girls, about 63,000 fewer packages sold, and 5,000 fewer cases. The interesting tidbit on the 5,000 fewer, less cases. Um, I don't know if most of you recall if you're also, attending the service unit manager meetings. Ginny made an appearance, I believe, around January and discussed that our initial orders were down about 8,000 cases. So during this sale, we were able to recoup some of that loss, but we still ended up about 5,000 less cases from the previous year. For direct ship, that was down a little bit. But I think a nice highlight for this sale is we had 104 more cookie shares this year. We did a cookie share incentive to try to bolster that number up. Probably over the last, I'll say, 2 years or so, that number had been declining. And with the need that we've seen in, food banks and things like that, it was nice to be able to donate more this year. We also had 148 more girls um, participate in digital cookie sales. So that could be that they logged into the site, set their accounts up. It could be that they just accepted credit cards. It could be that they had some direct ship orders. But having an additional 148 girls participate, we look at that as a good indication of number one, digital cookie working better this year. So girls being able to access it more and knowing that e-commerce is definitely here to stay. When you look at all of the other things that we do as a consumer, it's nice to see more girls moving towards that direction. And for our PGA was pretty much the same. Um, there was a one package difference in last year versus this year. When we look at our cookie mix by variety, we pretty much mirror the national average when it comes to what our consumer demand is versus the nation. So, as you can see from these two pie charts, the only differences are our caramels were a little different than the national average, 19% um, versus 16. Our trefoils, we have more, I guess, trefoil likers in our council than the national average. And our peanut butter patties were 1% different. Our lemonades 1%, and our adventurefuls 1%. But for the most part, everything is really on par with what the national cookie mix is. This slide right here, this shows our girls selling versus participation. As all of you know, every year, our goal is to have more girls participate in the sale. And we do that to, number one, try to get more girls engaged. That's why we send a postcard to every household at the beginning of every sale so that at least it gets in front of every household with a Girl Scout. And we try to really incentivize. We try to make good decisions on our rewards. on what we offer troops, some of the contests, things like that. We definitely for this year did a lot more to incentivize those girls who aren't necessarily the top sellers. So our order card definitely reflected that this year, and we thought that might be a better driver for girls. But as you can see from the last slide, fewer girls sold this year. So there. Um, when you look at the girls selling, we've pretty much stayed almost the same. Um, if you look at, we pretty much average around in the 70 percentile. For 2023, we had a higher percentage of participation, but also, we're looking at the number of girls that we upload. So we know that, girls selling and girls, the number of girls we upload into the system looks very different. Before every sale, we pretty much put everybody in the system, and that could be girls who are registered in outreach troops. So maybe they register early, but they're not necessarily activated fully yet. It could be troops, special interest troops that only participate in certain things throughout the year. But if you're a registered Girl Scout in December, then we pretty much upload you into our system. Troop selling and participation. Um, on this slide, hold on for a moment. Um, on this slide, our blue represents the registered troops. So again, number of troops we have that are active in our system in December, and then the number of troops that sell. So for the most part, on a council level, I think, this isn't a bad number, but of course, every year we're striving to get more and more troops to engage and participate in the sale. And cases sold. So this is the slide that really s- tells the story, right? When we think of our sales and how many cases we sell per year, of course, what we want to see is a increase, even if it's slight, some type of increase. And that increase would hopefully represent girls and troops that remain motivated by the sale and want to participate. And what we've seen is over the last few years, a consistent decline. And what we know is that, and we heard you last year, troops expressed that, it was harder to sell, maybe consumers weren't picking up that extra package. So this slide is really representative of the fact that as fewer girls and fewer troops participate, and on top of that, if they sell fewer packages, then this decline happens. So you could see here, we sold less cookies than 2024. And for PGA, similar to that first graph, I mean, the first chart that we showed, our PGA was basically the exact same, one package difference. Um, and then if you look at the average packages per troop, troops did about the same in terms of sales. It may not have felt like it. I know there were some troops that I talked to this year that found this year a little challenging, but you can see here on average, troops did about the same. And now I think Latoya is supposed to take over.
All right, so here we have our top five service units. We have service unit service unit 304 with 80,766 packages sold. Yay, if someone's here. Um, and then we have, following that, we have service unit 512, 303, 816, and 306. Congrats to all of the top service units. Next, we have our top five service units with a per girl average. We have service unit 277 with 373, followed by service unit 617, 512, 107, and 927. All right, I will top 10 selling Girl Scouts. We have Emma at the top at selling 2,538 packages. Our top 10 sellers have been notified already. They have a wonderful trip that we have planned for them on Saturday, May 17th. They will be going to New York to see Harry Potter on Broadway. And then our top selling troop is Troop 11013, who actually won the camp experience. So now we're going to have open discussion. Um, can anyone could mute? Some of the questions that we like to know is why are there less troops participating? Why are less girls participating? What can service unit cookie volunteers do to encourage participation in next year cookie program? What can we do as council to encourage participation in next year cookie program? And what can we do to get more girls to use digital cookies? The girl delivered and direct shipped. So we'll start if anybody wants to unmute.
Peggy Redmond. I wanted to ask, when years ago, troops, girls were not required to sell, but troops were required to sell. When was that decision made to not require troops to take part in the cookie sale?
I'm sorry,
Wait,
Peggy. What
Uh,
did you say?
I say years ago, girls were not required to sell, but troops were required to sell cookies. When was a decision made to not require not require troops to sell cookies?
That was made, I will say, about 10 years ago.
And it looks like maybe that wasn't a great idea. I don't know.
I will say this, it was done um because at the time our leadership really thought that having almost like having something in place that required troops maybe was too much of a push. So if we think about what's written down from a GSUSA perspective, is that participation in any product sales functions, whether it's cookies or fall,
Mhm.
is absolutely voluntary.
Okay.
And I think that the thinking was to have something in place that says it's voluntary for girls, but yet required for troops, um, doesn't necessarily align,
Okay.
so that's really when that happened. So you're
Mhm.
absolutely right. That was a long-standing thing, even when I first came in, where we had it for years. And I'll say about a good 10 years ago, that was removed. We've had discussions about bringing it back, but also thinking like, well, again, if in any document written for girls, it's voluntary, how do we
Mhm.
say it's required for troops?
Right.
But you're absolutely right.
anybody else? Okay.
Does anyone have any thoughts on why troops are participating less? Like why more and more troops seem to be less, engaged or not willing to participate?
This is Audra Echo Woods. I know that for us, the some of the troops that stop participating just because they have older girls and they're at the high school level, so maybe you know they're just not really into selling cookies. I know we've got some troops that they're selling cookies, just less. Um,
Hmm.
but we have a lot of newer, younger troops, which is wonderful to see. But they're leery of getting the high volume cookie locate both locations. So they're choosing the smaller, and that's fine as long as they're out there and they're selling and they're trying. But
Right.
there's a lot of concern about going door to door, and so we try to emphasize the digital cookie. Um, and I think, at least for my service unit, it went a lot smoother than last year. Um, we had just a really rough start on that.
Hmm.
Um, but it is hard because we've got a lot of middle aged group girls, and even with my own daughter, she's in 8th grade, and I don't know how many times the comments of, well, the girls just keep getting older and older, and the only thing you can do is smile and say, well, they do that every year, but they want to see the little ones, and it's really hard. It's easier when they're cute and they're little, but as the prices increase more and more, like everything else, I know it's nothing we can control, but it is hard to sell the cookies. We try to explain, you're basically making a donation and you get a nice cookie as a
Yeah.
prize kind of thing.
Hmm.
I don't know that there's anything we can do for more girls. Unfortunately, and I noticed this with my son's Boy Scout troop as well, that it's hard to get the parents involved.
Hmm.
And you can sell cookies all you want, but if you want the parents to stand out in the cold, that's, I think, a wall that we're not going to be able to surpass as
Hmm.
these younger, more um, I don't want to say selfish, but self personalized. I don't know. It's
Well,
hard to
what
say.
Well, I,
You
I
know what I'm
think
trying to
that's
say?
fair though, what you're saying,
Right.
because I've someone else said something about that the volunteer of today coming in is different, right? So if they're different, I think what we're trying to uncover is, well, what are their needs, right? So if it's evolving, so if you think of the cookie sale over the last 5 or 10 years, it has evolved. There's been a digital cookie,
Right.
going online, trying to make things easier for parents who may not want to stand out in the cold, maybe are more e-commerce driven, want to just do something on their phone and that's kind of it. So I do think that like if you guys are seeing like a major shift in that kind of parent when it comes to the cookie sale, I think what we're looking to hear is, well, how does it play out, say, just in terms of engagement for your own service unit stuff? Because maybe there's something there from a council level that we can start to mull over and tap into. You know what I mean? It may not be, maybe it's just cookies, maybe it's not just cookies and other things, but how do we tap into and try to engage maybe this different type of volunteer now who is the new moms, of kindergartners and things like that.
This is Peggy Redmond. I think with us, it was this question of kindergartners, new troop leaders, new troop cookie managers who've never done it before, and it scared them. And I think maybe if we could figure out big sister troops somehow, that might be helpful. I don't know. But I mean, we do that with other things, but we don't do it with cookies.
Right. Okay.
So, hey, Angela, this is Crystal. So, a quick question. Do you have the information on, like, I can only go by my particular girls who are older girls who they're just done selling, and really there's no prizes, there's no trips. I have juniors about to be seniors. It doesn't matter to them. And the lure of selling cookies is gone. I mean, I'm
Hmm.
keeping it 100% honest.
Uh-huh.
Do you have like any type of data when it comes to which group of girls sell the most? Is it the daisies, the brownies, the juniors, the cadets, ambassadors, so on and so on? Do you have that type of information, that data?
Yes. We looked
Okay.
at that earlier this year. Anne might know off the top of her head, but if I misquote something, remind me. I think the younger girls, because the number of girls there are, right, and at the lower ages, had the most volume. But in terms of the per girl average, on average, what they sell, older girls sold more.
Well, probably that's because their troops might be a little bit smaller, so they can get that per girl average a little bit better than the girls and the younger that
Yeah,
might have 12 to 16
right.
girls in the troop.
So
Then,
volume wise, it sits, of course,
mhm.
with the younger girls, but
And to keep it totally transparent, to me, it looks like you look at the number of total girls that are in Scouts from the data 2022, it's significantly gone down. So that's why you're selling less cookies. And I don't want to beat a dead horse about the price because that's all we ever hear about the price, and we know it's not going to change. But
mhm,
that's the biggest comment that you get at a table is the price. It is what it is, and if it does go up, it's your volume sales is just going to continue to go down, unfortunately. I mean,
mhm,
that's just the way that, you could give it many prizes to these girls, but it's the product. And honestly, a lot of times people will say the cookies don't taste the same as they did when they bite them to them in front of us. They're like, it tastes different. And I know they remove trans fats and everything else to make things healthier, cost cheaper, but the cookie is not as good as it used to be. Now, maybe someone will have a great cookie come out next year, and maybe that will change things. But you've had a couple of flops, and you've taken away some fan favorites, so that could be another reason. I mean, I still get at booths why do they take away the thanks a lot? People love those thanks a lot.
Right.
That's all
And
I
this
hear
is,
all the time.
yeah, yeah, this is Ann from the bakery. And Angela did ask a question. I did pull up some data for you. And again, what she said is that, yeah, your larger groups, like you have more brownies selling, so they do sell the most packages. But when you look at your per girl averages, your ambassadors actually have your about your highest per girl average, 219. Your daisies have a 182. So, the daisies and juniors are actually pretty close. This is 2024 data because I haven't dug in and pulled this
mhm,
data yet for 2025, but I would imagine it's going to stay fairly similar.
mhm,
So it's that, how can we, maybe bump some of those, and I think somebody said some of the recognitions for the older girls, those don't appeal. So, because your senior average is like 199, although senior and ambassadors are pretty much up there. Interestingly enough, your highest PGA is in your Juliets. And those are probably because those are girls who, really are motivated. They're coming in, they're already motivated to
independent.
participate on their own.
Hmm.
So, they're highly self-motivated, right? So, and they have an average of 405 from last year. So I think there might be some, ways to encourage different groups, in different ways.
Hmm.
This is Florence Shepherd from Cerevel.
Hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think it was a combination of things. The price and the economy. It was very difficult when you're out there at a booth sale and somebody comes out of a store where they've bought cookies for $2 rather than buy our cookies at $6 because
Hmm.
they have a family to feed. So
Hmm.
I found that there were a lot of people that gave a donation but didn't pay that $6.
Right.
So that was one of the things. The other thing, towards the end of the sale, I know there was a problem in the beginning with Adventurefuls and Toastjay, so we were kind of like 2 weeks behind with that. We figured that what we asked for, we would still be able to sell. So when we were able to order those cookies, we ordered the same exact amount that we thought we could sell. But at the same time, that palm oil rumor came to light, And at our booth sales, we had to deal with a lot of that. Plus, a lot of parents at the end of the sale, when we needed to sell those cookies, we got stuck with cookies because we couldn't sell them. And even though I sent them that follow-up article that cleared it up and, responded to it, it still wasn't enough. So that was a huge issue for us.
Okay. Thanks,
And I
Lauren.
think that council maybe should have come out with some kind of a message or something to assist us with that. Sending us that article was educational for me, but I couldn't give that article to all our customers. So we tried to paraphrase it and, explain it, but I think it might have been, more beneficial if we had something directly from council at that point with those rumors.
Mhm.
So we got stuck with Adventurefuls and Toastjay
Okay.
cases.
Right. Just so typically when there are big, I'm trying to use the right words, marketing communication type messages, typically on the council level, we don't independently create that. That's normally given to us through GSUSA, which is why, say, with GSUSA created a blog that talked about, kind of debunking what was put out in these news outlets. So we, on a council level, typically when it's big national type things, that is always led by GSUSA.
Okay, I understand. It's the legalities of it. I understand that.
Yeah. So I just wanted to, make you aware of it.
This is
Okay.
Peggy again. How fast can they be? Because one of our leaders at our leaders meeting on Monday night was worried about the heavy metals that are or are not in cookies and what's that going to do for next year. So she's
Mhm.
wondering how fast can GSUSA be? How nimble can they be at answering these things? And then having us on Rallyhood know exactly where the link is to those things so we can immediately send it out to all our troops.
Yeah. I think I can't answer that question. I don't
Yeah,
know
I
how
know.
fast or nimble they could be,
Well, here's the thing
but
is,
I would say
Gail's fast and nimble.
yeah, like they did create, kind of, they created basically through this blog a statement dispelling those things,
Mhm.
giving points of why it's safe, and this, article kind of overinflated or exaggerated things and things like that. Um, but anything like as far as I'm aware, that's kind of all they did put out. You know what I mean? They were, talking points and with like you guys know, with any type of thing that turns into a legality, pretty much no one's going to be talking about it because it's an active court thing.
Mhm.
And those things don't flow through our local council. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
it just doesn't. So
Well,
I do think there's an awareness, of course, that well, we'll have to have something or some way to address this going into the next season. So I'm
right.
sure
But
they're aware of that,
I,
right?
I think it's going to hurt us next year. We need to come out front with how we're going to address these types of things when they happen. Because, what do I tell my parents or,
Right.
the rest of our troops when it comes to this type of thing?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm sure, like, because two things. Number one, the majority, I think all councils now um, sell in the wintertime. And if that's the case, then everybody's doing initial orders somewhere around, or gearing up for it somewhere around the fall season. So I'm sure, I believe, and again, my belief doesn't count for a whole lot, but I believe that GSUSA will address these things, knowing that it's important for every council sale in the country.
So that
You
would be a
know?
great thing to include in the training slides and in the
Mhm.
troop manager guidebook.
Yeah, 100%. Like I don't doubt it. And just so that you know, I do. This is what I know. I know that the first people that are contacted and issues are communicated with our CEOs. And if there is something that came down the pike that caused, great concern, I am sure Jenny, and she typically does, will pick up the phone, give a call. Hey, I heard this. Hey, we need to address this, or here's information that I think would be handy. So I don't think it's an issue of anyone being left out of the loop as opposed to, um, you know, it's an active thing that GSUSA is addressing.
Right. Right. I think people just need to have a link.
Yeah.
They just don't know the link exists. It's
Right.
not that they're being left out. They just
Right.
aren't aware of it.
Yeah. And I think that's where, when we talk about communication
Mhm.
and trying to get the messages down to different groups, there is no clean communication channel that we have on a council level. Typically, we send emails to the cookie booth coordinators and service unit cookie managers. Then we post on Rallyhood,
Right.
and sometimes depending on what the information is or how many characters it is, we might try to send a message through smart cookies, you know. But there, I will say there unfortunately isn't one space where everybody is locked into where we know we reach 100% of everybody. So that's why you guys are really important to, helping us communicate things in a timely manner. So thank you.
I have
Any other insights like that you'd like to share?
If
I
I
have one
can
more.
offer a few things. I've been selling cookies with my troop for 12 years. So I have 11th graders. Um, and I'm going to be frank here. It's
Okay.
just not fun anymore. When
Mhm.
they were little, there were contests, there was Bling My Booth, there was fun cookie kickoff meetings. Council gave us prizes. Council was 6 years ago, 5 years ago, council was very supportive of the cookie season to us as cookie booth coordinators, to service unit managers. We had more fun. It is not fun. It is a task. It is
I
a
agree.
it is a labor of love for my troops, something that we have to do that we absolutely hate. And the last 2 years have been a disaster. We've unrolled stuff the day before the sale starting, and we're all out here going, what's going on? What's going on? And the volunteers are having to fill the gaps for each other. We have a volunteer that is an IT person that is constantly on our Facebook page helping us navigate some of our issues because council is not. We didn't have a cookie unit or a cookie manager guidebook until after the sale started. We had all these secret things going on, secret promotion of what it was going to be for shipping, but couldn't tell us until after the sale started. A new app was coming out that we had to use. Changes were in the app. Couldn't figure that out till the day we started. That's insanity.
Wait a minute. If you can help me, what new app
When we started digital cookies, we started it on a holiday weekend, and it was dropped on us the day the sale started last year, and then we were just left to our own devices.
for
And it-
2025?
No,
No.
2024.
2024.
2024.
Oh,
It
yes.
was a poor rollout.
Yes.
But again, similarly this year, we didn't have the guidebook,
Right.
and then the app had some changes in it, and some things were different that again, we started this season not having all the tools. And I feel like, and I know that you're new, so it's not all on you, but I feel like council's like,
Been around.
here, go sell these cookies, but like, you're on your own. Bye. And like, they just leave us hanging. I feel like there's no support, there's no guidance, there's no help. There's nothing for older girls. Like, there's nothing in it for older girls. There really isn't. I have girls that are going to be final year ambassadors next year, and I just asked them to get to the per girl average. sell as many boxes to get the most amount per box and like call it a day. Because it's just not fun. And it's not even the little girls in my troops that just started. It's not fun anymore. It's highly, highly stressful, very highly stressful. Every year in my service unit, as long as I've been doing this, I have people quit during cookie season because it's just so stressful. And just from a personal standpoint, that might not affect anybody else, but in my service unit, we don't have anywhere to sell. We only have one supermarket, and that's Acme, and we get 3 weekends. Other than that,
Wow.
we're beat. We don't have Wawa anymore. We have to leave our service unit, and we're at the mercy, thank goodness, of other service units to share with us for us to make any kind of money. And I don't think that that's fair, but I don't know what the solution is. I really have thought about this for many years because I don't want to put my problems on another service unit and say, we should have to go into another service unit. I don't know what the solution is. But for my service unit, we don't have anywhere to sell. And we'll never ever be in those top 10. We like the top number one girl probably sold as many as my whole troop sold. Like we'll never get there. So sometimes it's just impossible thing that we'll never reach. I feel like the times have changed. It's not fun anymore. And I feel like council is totally like not with us and not supportive of us. Those are
So
my
let me say this I've actually been around a very long time, Justine. I just haven't necessarily been in these meetings. For the cookie guide, absolutely, that was a flub on our part. There was a miscommunication between our marketing team, who it was their first year doing the guides, and myself. So that absolutely. For 2024, we absolutely know that digital cookies was hard, not just for you, but for us too. It was our first year. This is our second year, and that's why we specifically did a digital cookie training at the beginning of the year in January for 2025. We provided a lot of the what is it, the quick tip sheets and things like that. And those were provided to us from GSUSA. We thought, because this year we didn't get a lot of complaints on digital cookie, it wasn't 100% perfect, but I think it was a huge improvement from last year. Um, so I'm trying to figure out. I do know we didn't do Bling Your Booth this year. So you believe that Bling Your Booth was a big piece, because I'll say this from a council level, typically for Bling Your Booth, on average, if 15 out of 900 troops even submitted a picture.
Angela, can I just interject for a minute?
Sure.
I agree with Justine
Yeah.
about how this all played out.
Yeah.
This is the issue. 2024, there was an issue, and the issue was digital cookies. Okay.
Uh-huh.
2025, the issue was we didn't get the information we needed beforehand. Okay. So what the issue is, it seems like from one year to the next, it has been stressful. Okay. I also agree that it is an issue with the older girls, because why really should they sell cookies? They have other things to do, and it's a lot of work. And, when they get to that age, there's a lot of other things. And if there isn't anything to entice them or get them excited about it, it's an issue. Okay. Now, also with the training, my suggestion is that we need to have more of these type of conversations before the training. I know we go over, specifics about what we're doing with the cookies, but I also think this is an important piece, because all of these issues that we have, and there's probably some ladies or gentlemen that haven't spoken, but there are other things. So we need to have those types of sessions where we could talk about these things and brainstorm with each other on maybe suggestions that troops that were very successful. That's number one. I know the booth coordinator meeting is tomorrow, but we also need to figure out how we can help each other with these boots because we have the same issue. And luckily, we had help from another service unit, but we could have used more, and we need to talk about that. But so I don't know what the answers are. I understand, Justine, issue with not having, stores. We have a ShopRite that won't let us sell. So I understand what she's saying. So there's a lot of pieces here, and that's the frustration that
Right.
all the pieces. You understand? We're not beating up on all of you. We're just saying,
Oh, no, we don't think that at all. I'm
Okay.
honestly here asking the questions. If we really thought that, we wouldn't ask the questions.
okay.
But
We
we're
just
really
want to
trying
know
to,
that
like, we see the
client-
information and we
right,
see the
right.
data. And of course, we talk to volunteers throughout the sale. So it truly is a sincere ask of us to try to figure out and tease some of this out to find out, well, what's really at the crux of it. So, this year, absolutely, the Troop Cookie Guide came out later. Typically, it comes out in December, and it did not. And I take complete ownership of that. That doesn't happen every year. So I'm trying to get at the crux of, all right, what's the things that we know there's, faux pas here and there. We know that Digital Cookie wasn't 100%, but we know it was a lot better than last year. But
Agreed.
if there was something that was a huge faux pas, then now's the time to express it to us. So you guys are telling us as older girls, the conversation here is okay, just like you said, well, I really don't know the answer. Well, we don't necessarily know it either. So maybe if there's suggestions on, well, what would entice older girls? Or like Audra said, there's something different about the volunteers now. Well, what would entice them? You guys work more closely with your troops. We're on the periphery trying to problem solve, and we know that we can't because we don't work with frontline troops every day. So that's why we're asking. So please don't think that in asking additional questions, it's a way to deflect. It's truly to get more information from you about, okay, well, let's dive and dig into this a little more about, okay, what really is the root cause or problem that we could fix for next year. So absolutely, we know getting you materials earlier, giving you the cookie guys in December when you normally get it. Absolutely. But for
So
some of the other things, like what could we do with older girls? They do have busy schedules, but like Ann told you, they typically have strong per girl averages. So, I don't know the answer either, but if anyone has thoughts, please share.
Well, again, I think with the older girls, the per girl average is because the older girl troops are a lot smaller. So of course they're going to sell more. It's going to look better. But again, you're competing not with other activities. You have girls. Justine and I, it sounds like we have the same troop. My girls are 11th grade. Half my girls have jobs. Jobs come before cookies.
Right.
And what am I going to say? No. And again, there's no sweatshirt in the world when a girl is saving money for a car. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Girl Scouts is not giving girls cars. So,
Mm-hmm.
there's really nothing that you're going to do here. Also, again, after having my sub meeting with Jenny last month, when she was saying, what does scouting look like in 2030? This runs hand in hand. You
Okay.
have less girls, then they're looking at what's the new volunteer going to look like. No disrespect for anyone who was born in the 1990s, but people that were born in the 60s and the 70s have a different ethic when it comes to volunteering. It's just the way it is. Probably because our moms were there doing the same thing that we're doing. We get our hands dirty, as I like to call them, these new Instagram moms. They want to see the the finished product without doing the work. And again, I'm not insulting anyone who's younger than me, but this is what I've seen. It's the same excuse why these younger mothers don't want to engage. Yes, they want to put their children in scouting, but they don't want to do anything. They just want to show up. They want to take a photo. They want to put it on TikTok and say, look at my little girl. And that's really what it is. Now, I don't know as a person of a certain age how to engage these younger moms and women to get their hands dirty. I mean, I've seen the craziest things where they don't even want to look at glue sticks, do crafts, nothing. They just want to show up, drop off, photo, and take. And that's unfortunately something that I can't explain to GSUSA what to do. This is something that your higher ups need to figure out. And again, the data that you showed us, it has gone down considerably. I couldn't believe that chart from what was it, 2022 to that's a big drop, and that is very concerning. So if you don't have more girls with volunteers to sell your product, it's just going to continue to go down. There's nothing we can do. You could give everything, all the incentives, we could bling boost the whole nine, but if you have less people, you're going to have less product to sell. You could, I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, seriously, think about that. It's just the numbers are unfortunately are declining, but that's the proof is in the pudding right there. I'm just saying.
I'd like to suggest the and I agree with the older girls. I mean, I've got 3 8th graders, and that's all I have in my troop is 3 girls. So when it comes to picking up all the booths, it's all the sales is going to those 3 girls, so that it's easier to get a higher number. Plus, they've already built their customer base. But I think one of the things, and it's been talked about a lot in my service unit, was for the prizes. One, the cost has gone up. That's reality. But maybe if like some of the higher level prizes, maybe make those gaps larger so that they can actually get more per cookie, because I believe it's gone from 125 to 130 to 135 over the last 5 to 6 years, but that extra nickel to 10 cents total. But the cost of cookies has gone up $2 just since my daughter's been selling cookies the last 8 years. But with that, the girls want to feel like they're getting something out of it, and if the troop is only getting $1.35 out of $6, that's it's like, okay, well, let's go stand out in the next polar vortex for 2 to 4 hours, and you're getting $1.35 a box. It's hard to convince them, and the parents that want to see the result of it. Also, it was suggested one of those gaps, and I know I just mentioned widening some of the gaps for the bigger prizes, but that $700 to a $9.99 gap was a brick wall for a lot of troops in my service unit. They kind of was like, well, what's the point? So at 701, they stopped. The girls had no reason, because to get to 1,000 to get to that next level, and they weren't even sure what that prize was. So I know last year we had the trip to Liberty Island, which was phenomenal. This year I think it was some kind of camping event. But it was not enough to get them to stand out there to sell those last 300 boxes. So maybe if we had an $850 prize range, because honestly, it might be worth it. I know it's an increased cost, but it might be cost effective to get them to sell those extra 151 boxes to get to that level.
Right. Okay.
I also mentioned that maybe we could recognize when these girls have been selling for 12 and 13 years. If you started as a daisy and you sold cookies all these years, I think there should be some kind of recognition. Congratulations, you sold cookies for 13 years and you hung in there. And there's no recognition. There's no like a cumulative patch. There's nothing for the girls that have done that their entire scout career.
Well, longevity patch, that's an interesting idea.
I like that a lot. I think that's an excellent idea.
I agree.
Even being recognized at the council level, like not just with cookies, but just these girls are now ambassadors. They've been with us for 13 years. Congratulations. Like, we're going to see you off now. Like, for us leaders that have been doing this a really long time, this was my life for 13 years. I'm going to close the chapter next year. You have no idea how sad I am about that. Like, I'm closing a chapter on a part of my life. I love these girls. I've watched them grow up. It would just be nice if like council recognized that.
Justine, this is Peggy. I want you to know that I did that same thing with my daughter. When I retired at 66, which is a pretty normal time, my service union director gave me a new brownie troop, and they finally graduated. So you can go ahead and go through with another whole raft of Girl Scouts who you will love. It doesn't have to be over forever.
Maybe Justine is like, I need a break.
I had a
I've
break.
considered it, but it'll never be like this. Like, you
Yeah.
know, my daughter's in this troop. These
Yes.
girls have
Oh,
grown
yeah.
up with me. So this is not the norm. I have 11 ambassadors, 11
Mhm.
ambassadors. I
Wow.
kept them in,
Yep.
I kept them engaged. And we're going to Iceland next year. So like that's their
Wow.
incentive to sell cookies. Like I have my own ways to incentivize them to do this because they do have jobs and boyfriends and a social life, but they sold cookies every weekend. They met their goals
Mhm.
because of this trip.
Mhm.
I'd like to also see that at the council level, that gives them a push too. And like that council will recognize their hard work and that they made it 13 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I could go back to the question about getting new troops to sell, I wonder whether we shouldn't ask service unit managers as well as us cookie managers to make it sound like, although you don't have to sell cookies, it's the norm that you would sell cookies, and that it's an exciting thing to try. You don't have to look at the possibility of selling the per girl average for the council. You
Mhm.
can go for a smaller target if you're a Daisy troop and
Mhm.
try to raise enough money to go have a pizza party. I mean, that's one
Mhm.
of the things that we've tried to do to get. I know when I first came back to these brownies, and these were kids whose parents I didn't know at all, because my
Mhm.
kids were in their 40s. So
Right.
we decided to go down the street to buy frozen yogurt. So everybody had to sell at least 24 boxes of cookies. And everybody sold way more than that.
Right.
But we had made such a small goal that it wasn't scary, it wasn't intimidating.
Right.
And
Right.
I think
That's a
somehow
good
making the
point.
first year not intimidating might be
Right.
a helpful thing.
Okay. Well, thank you. Let me go on to the next one. Thanks everyone for sharing your thoughts. I really hope you know that we are open to hearing that. All right, the next slide is about council run trainings and resources. So we touched on some of it, the troop guide, getting that done when you're used to getting it, which is December. Everything else, were we good? I'm trying to think of some of the other guides we put out. But anyway, what for council run trainings and resources, what did you think worked well, or could be improved? Are there any additional trainings? Because we did quite a few trainings. We did the service unit trainings, we did a troop training. There was a training for first year troops. Um, what else we did? We did the digital cookie training, so that was separate from the regular trainings like in December. So we did quite a few different things. I'm not 100% sure. I think they were useful, but I'm not sure. So I want to hear from you.
This is Peggy again. I really preferred this year's trainings to the previous ones. I thought the training on the software was much easier for me to understand. I don't know if that was me or the software or the training, but I thought it was really effective this year.
Okay, thank you.
I know our newer troops really enjoyed the Cookie Rookie program,
Okay.
and just being able to go out and find that information. Some of our older leaders not happy with Rallyhood, but that's, I think, just a generational issue.
Now
But
with Rallyhood, you
Oh,
said?
yeah, but I still found it easy to be able to say, hey, using the computer, not your phone, go to the links, and that's where you're going to find the cheat sheets,
Oh, the resources, gotcha.
the resource.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
All the resources that you're going to want. But yeah, some of those, like the Cookie Rookie, and just having the resources there, and even if it was just they were there, so I could pull them off and send them out to my leaders and just
Right.
kind of make it
Right.
easier for them. Those were very helpful.
Yeah, the
Okay.
Rallyhood was in some places you can sort and find things in alphabetical order, and in other parts of Rally Hood you can't. So like finding a link, oh my God. Whereas finding a document was easy. So
Yeah, so
I
Peggy,
don't know who
when
organized that.
when I load things into Rally Hood, the
Yeah.
files are automatically put in alphabetical order. The links, there's no way for me to rearrange them.
I
But
know,
that's a
that's
good
not,
point. That would be helpful.
right, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. It's not you, it's the machine. It's
Right.
the way it's organized.
Any other thoughts?
Can I say something else that was helpful that wasn't training? Thank you for the mega drops.
Mm, you're welcome. Anyone else? Do you think anything was missing that we absolutely never shared, never did, and you think like, oh, this would be helpful?
I don't think in terms of resources, but as someone else said earlier, knowing sooner in the planning year when promotions were going to be would really be helpful, because it's hard to know whether you need to make a big initial order or something's, when it's going to be the push. And without knowing when the promotions are, so when are you going to focus on digital as opposed to in-person cookies, makes it hard to plan. So even if you don't know exactly what the promotion will be, if you can at least say it's the first 2 weeks or the second 2 weeks or something,
Let me ask you this. So while we want to, in doing the promotion, of course, it's a way to try to mitigate some of the challenge we know that shipping has, right? And encourage people to have the sale. We don't want to impede or potentially run the risk of that impacting people's initial order. Those initial orders are very, very important from a council perspective of troops getting what they need at least up front for the first 2 weeks. It really creates a problem when there's troops that do participate, don't place an initial order, and we're not even expecting it because we're expecting for the troops that placed an initial order to be the ones that actually sell.
Right.
So that's why we tend to not just flat out tell everything at the beginning because we really want people to place an initial order, and hopefully not wait or think, oh, I'll get it later. Now, some people do, like some troops do. It's just that because we can't foresee who those troops are. We don't know if they're big troops or just a Juliet, right? If they're a Juliet, we know it's not going to have an impact on inventory, what's in any warehouse whatsoever. If it's some of these big troops that sell big and the first weekend they're picking up 500 cases, that's a problem. That creates a problem for us. So that's kind of why we hold it close to our chest. Yeah, but I understand why it would be impactful. Typically, also, when you think of our sale, the very first 2 weeks are the time when our troops are going to sell the most cookies, period. So chances are we're always going to do a promotion towards the beginning because we want to have more bang for our buck at the beginning of the sale, right?
Right.
If we don't utilize all of those resources, up that we've budgeted for, that's when we have the potential to do like a pop-up, which is what we did in February. When we looked at the budget, like, okay, well, we didn't spend everything. Maybe let's just do something. And, I think it was Cookie Weekend, Girl Scout Cookie Weekend. It doesn't mean that every year we would do that because maybe we, budget less, or maybe next year more troops are in digital cookie and take advantage of the shipping, you know? So that's kind of how we, try to um, make good choices about when and where we place that type of shipping.
Mhm.
Just
So, but
information to know.
back to, I believe it was Peggy, or no, it might have been Justin who said, when it comes to the promo with shipping, why do we have to keep it under wraps? We know that I mean, it works, it's beneficial for everybody. Because if we would know ahead of schedule, and I know people get touchy about promoting, but if we do promote, hey, cookies are coming, make sure if you're going to buy them online on this date to this date, shipping is free for whatever it is the promotion is. Why does it need to be hidden? Because it's beneficial for Girl Scouts to get the word out sooner than later. Or, even if you just tell it, like I said, it doesn't need to be hidden. It's not, you're going to do it. So, that's what I don't understand.
Hiding
Mhm.
information makes it sound like we're on different teams. I think, and we're not, we're on the same team.
Right. That's what I'm just
Right.
saying. And then did we bring this up? Are we going to be able to get is there going to be a new cookie this year? Or is that still under
It's
wraps?
coming.
Okay.
I don't know what it is, though, just so you know. I don't know what it
Okay.
is.
Okay.
It hasn't been released. So that's to come.
And what can we do next year about inventory, though? The fact that we had to wait those 2 weeks for Adventureful and Toast-J, and then the Thin Mint issue. I mean, what can we do about that? Because that's
I
difficult.
don't know.
We
So
put in a huge initial order. Okay, we always do. So, but then when we start selling, if you have to wait a week to 2 weeks for cookies, a certain type of cookie, and you have to turn it off in a digital app, then what
Mhm.
happens is you have no way of guessing whether those customers are going to buy something else in the meantime, or whether they're
Right.
going to wait for that cookie to come back, and then, you know what I'm saying? So
Uh,
that was tricky.
yeah, and I'll be very honest. I don't know if that's going to this is the balance. The balance is in the past 2 years. One year we had 11,000 cases left over. One year we had 6,000 cases left over. This year we had 1,000 cases left over.
Wow.
So there's a fine balance, right, between loading up our warehouses and hoping and praying that our troops sell enough to empty it out versus, okay, well, we need to be very careful about how we order. And similar to you guys, not knowing, all right, I'm gonna get these cookies and do my booths, and you have no idea which varieties customers are gonna buy. Some varieties are the hot ones one year, and maybe not the hot ones the next year. If you think of it as if you're doing that for your troop and we're doing it for 900 troops, it becomes a lot more trickier. So that if there's the run on Thin Mints and maybe we didn't order an extra 2 pallets the last time we ordered, essentially this year we ordered every single week. The issue becomes as we get further into the sale, there's less cookies to order and it becomes harder to get them very fast. So that's really the balance and the challenge. So what I cannot promise is that we won't have issues of certain varieties. What we always try to do is load up on what we know is our major cookies, Thin Mints, caramels, your core cookies. Um, and last year, this past year, we lowballed the Adventurefuls and the Toast Jays, and you guys blew through that like really fast. So it's a tricky balance. We definitely do our best to guesstimate, and sometimes we guesstimate, we overdo it, and sometimes we underdo it. But that's kind of the balance of it. What we always aim to do is try to, especially when we saw that, there's times that we're going to be short, to try to give a little bit to everybody versus, you know, the warehouse in one location may have a whole bunch of adventurefuls, but we don't want necessarily everyone in the South, our, warehouse in Egg Harbor to get everything, and then nobody gets anything up here because these warehouses are empty. So, it's a balance, and it's a tricky thing. And it's definitely not ideal. Of course, we always want everything to be where you guys need it. Like you said, it works in our favor. But what we are making concerted efforts from this year going forward is to do our due diligence to make sure we don't have a lot of leftover cookies.
I think running out of Thin Mints at the end of the sale was kind of disastrous for a lot of troops this year because of booths.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
it
if
was
you
hard to
if
get
you have a
them.
booth, that's how you sell the other cookies. So, with that being said, I feel like at the same time, how you guys took some cookies back was greatly appreciated by those troops that got
Yeah.
stuck with a
I
lot.
mean, we even tried to get cookies from other councils,
Yeah, I
and it was
really
hard.
appreciated
So
that
yeah,
you really helped the troops out at the end that had, more than five
yeah,
cases because
yeah.
part of that, I think Boost is where our cookie numbers are struggling. People just aren't buying them at Boost anymore. I've noticed like I put a comment in before, I don't know if you talked about it or not. I had to leave and actually run a Daisy Day at camp meeting for my
Mhm.
Daisy leaders. And then I jumped back in. It was quick. But I think booths, our numbers that we're selling at the booths, I was taking a look this year, and they really are a lot lower from even what I remember. So I've had a troop for 8 years myself, and I remember selling, over
Mhm.
200 boxes easily at a booth, a Walmart booth. Even just a couple years ago, we would have done at least 180, 160. I saw 30s, 40s, like a good booth was like 70 to 90.
Mhm.
I don't know if you guys watched that trend, but that was something that I really noticed. Our booth sales are really going down, which is where a
Mhm.
lot of the older girls like to sell.
Right. Well, excuse me, we will be sharing um, the service unit cookie booth coordinator slides with everyone after the training tomorrow. But
Okay.
I think what I encourage everyone to do is just look at those slides. There's a couple of slides in there where um, we show the number of actual booth opportunities that were unfilled, and it's in
Yeah.
the thousands.
I mean, our
I
troop, our service unit alone has a lot, but that's just to
yeah,
help troops find a time and date and location
right.
that works best for them. So we don't expect them all to be taken, but they're
Okay.
there in case.
Okay. But that was
Um,
something that we wanted to run by the cookie booth coordinators because we're like, okay, well, why are so many going unmanned, but yet we're hearing there's not a lot of opportunity. So like
oh,
what could we do on a council level? So that's again, that's not for us to necessarily problem solve tonight, but it's
yeah.
definitely for the booth coordinators. And I think that if, as service unit cookie managers, I think what I forgot who said it earlier, but I do think potentially that could warrant a different conversation. Like, how could, on a council level, we be more collective or communal in
Yeah.
how we do booths? Because there's a lot of them that were not used, like a lot, and it's kind of shocking.
We
I,
should
I
figure
really,
out a
I
way to
really do.
share those
Yeah, I mean, I
with,
really do think a lot of that though is just the cookie booth coordinators putting them out there. Like you'll have this conversation with them, but I think that's just them putting them out there just so people have more options for times and dates because so many people have their schedules, and it's like, okay, we can do Saturday at this time, but if all the booths are Saturdays and that's just our, you know what I mean? Like other people can do
Mhm.
Sundays. So I think that's a big part of it. But even just getting Menlo Park Mall and sharing that was great. My own troop did a booth there. We didn't do great, but it was fun. It was fun. It was nice. It was indoors.
Okay. Well, thank you. All right, we'll go to the next slide. Um, Peggy thought the initial orders were good. Um, I think that anybody else for mega drops or initial orders or planned orders? I mean, the most comments that we heard were, some people wanted a Saturday. Well, pretty much a lot of people wanted a Saturday. And, the thing that we try to remind people of is that we only have three warehouses. And two of them do most of our initial orders or our mega drops. So of course, everybody can't be on a Saturday, but we still think that it's useful for service units. There were some service units this year that chose to kind of drop out of the mega drop and do it themselves, and that's okay. So I think that, thinking about next year, if mega drops are still beneficial, great. And if not, it's okay to, do it on your own. Just let us know. It's not a problem. But if there's any feedback that you have on initial orders or planned orders, you can share them now. Let us know.
Angela, in the comments, the only thing I did see was somebody saying that if possible, the truck should have a few extra cases of cookies because when they run into damaged cases, there's nothing to replace them with.
Actually, that's a good point because I did notice that even in a truck that I went to. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to support that because I know that the gentleman in the truck had mentioned that they stopped doing that because a lot of people are like, oh, this one's got a ding. And honestly, for me and mine, it'd be like, no, I'd shut that down real fast. It's like, just because the box isn't pretty, as long as everything is in it, the box. But we had, I want to say, multiple boxes where they were missing packages, and you could see that it was going to be short packages.
Yeah.
Just from because there was a space in the seam, and the box was too low. By that time, we all know how much a box should weigh. And I know for a fact we were actually short an entire case for one of the orders. Luckily, my troop was one of the last ones on that truck, so it was not a problem that my troop was shorted. But yeah, there needs to be a few extras, not a lot, but just at least 2 or 3 for each one.
Right.
Just so that, okay, well, this one's obviously missing some, or this box has been crunched beyond belief. We'll go ahead and do that.
Damages happen, and obviously
Right.
I know that, so having the extras would be useful. All right. So, Smart Cookies and Digital Cookie, they did make some changes to Digital Cookie this year. We definitely had a lot less people reaching out with issues and concerns. But there's still room to grow there. So did you feel like there was an improvement compared to last year? And there's they're still taking advice on changes and things, but what are some of the things that you feel still need to be updated? And then additionally, did the ABC Quick Bites, which have existed before, but we tried to focus on them a little more this year, and the Digital Cookie tip sheets, did you find that those were helpful?
Is it possible to get Smart Cookie and Digital Cookie to talk to each other?
That's
in what sense? Because they do some things talk to each other and some things don't.
Well,
so.
In the sense that when the troop cookie manager puts in the booth totals and the number of cookies they sold, that it would then translate to Digital Cookie so that the girl, because even for my own daughter, the only time Digital Cookie would register any sales was if they were sold through, like, somebody took a credit card or sold
right.
through the app.
Right.
So I filled out a survey actually yesterday that GSUSA sent out, and that was one of the things that was on there. As they basically had different sections, and you had to rate what was most important, what was least important, and that was one of the things I put towards the top.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I've got girls that their parents, they'll do cookies, they'll do everything for the troop and the girls, but sitting down on a computer after you've been on a computer all day to put in your daughter's updated inventory, not high on the priority list.
No, I hear you, and that was one of the things that I did get quite a few questions on, like, why did this number not look right? And I kind of just had to try and explain it to people, but it would be nice to have a way that they matched.
I personally don't like the inventory, like the parents keeping track and the girls keeping track of their own inventory. I feel like it just makes it a little bit harder for them to keep track of. I always just use Smart Cookies to kind of go in and give an update, but then they were like, this isn't matching this. It's not matching what you have. It's not matching what I have. And it is, definitely don't like that part, but I do think that they communicated a lot better this year. A lot better. Like a lot of things
Okay.
were matching as far as like what was put in, even boosts, everything just seemed to go a little bit better. And the tip
Good.
sheets are always great, even if I'm looking for an update to send to like a leader real quickly. And my favorite one is trying to teach the leaders to set up their troop cookie site before they do a cookie booth.
Yes, that was
Mm-hmm.
definitely something that we tried
Yeah.
to communicate out there because at the very beginning, people were like, oh, I can't access my troop. And
Yep.
when I would look, it was because they hadn't set up their site. So we did
Yep.
try and push that out.
Yeah.
Um, and
Okay.
that's not something, I don't think that's necessarily a digital cookie fault per se, as so
No,
much as just an education thing.
definitely. Like I think I think as the SUCMs, I think we just need to push that one out there because it could
Mhm.
solve a lot of problems in the beginning.
Right,
It's just such a big one that could cause, like, I remember when we had all the problems last year with the
right.
people paying as the girls. Did you guys get that this year really that
Very
much?
little.
Good.
Yeah. Um, and the couple incidents with it were honest mistakes. Like I had
Good.
we had like one parent log in as their other daughter by accident, so the sale went to the wrong troop, things like that. So
Oh, okay. But not because they didn't set up their cookie site.
right, yeah. So
Oh,
no,
good.
it didn't. But it's good to hear that everyone agrees that some of that stuff was improved.
Yeah, the parent stuff, them keeping track is just, it's really, I think it's really hard for them. And I think it just kind of breaks down the communication more than anything.
Right.
Mm.
Well, hopefully we'll continue to see some changes for next year and improvements. You know, definitely a lot of growing pains last year, but I was happy that this year things seem to go quite a bit smoother. So hopefully next
Mhm.
year will be even better. Rewards. I think we talked a little bit in passing about rewards, but just curious to hear how some of the things were perceived this year. We're always open to suggestions for future rewards, not even so much the reward levels, but actual items. Just before we go over that, just quickly, the rewards should arrive towards the end of May. Some of the custom items take a little bit longer to come in and get to the distributor, but they're in progress. As always, we ask you to distribute them as soon as possible so that you can notify us of any missing or damaged items. And just be aware the beach towels and the medals will be distributed separately. The medals we pick up, and so they don't get to the distributor. And the beach towels had a longer lead time than expected. We don't want to hold everything else up in the meantime. But backtracking, just thoughts on some of the rewards from this year. Let us know what you think, and if you have like a great suggestion that we can look into for the future.
Can I just say that nobody really liked the idea of the medals? I mean, in the last, handful of years, it was the pin, and the pin they could put on their vest or their sash, and it could be part of what they normally wear. But a medal, no one's gonna wear that around their neck. I mean, yeah, it's gonna be cool if you hang it on the wall, but um, I everybody liked the idea of the pin because it was something that could
Well,
signify on their
we do
vest.
have the 1,000 cookie pins as well. They're not listed on there, but we do have them.
Okay, see, a lot of because it said a medal. I don't care about a medal, and like I said, and that and the block
Uh,
between the 700 to 1,000. So I would have led with the pin over the medal.
Okay, well, that's good to hear.
I like that we had like a lower level prize this time at 48 instead of the first one being at 85.
I agree.
Good.
I think they were better this year.
I'm glad you said that because we
Yes.
really did advocate for putting more money towards the rewards for girls and specifically at the lower level. What we know from the data is that, if there's 8,000 girls selling and the per girl average is 200, the majority of those girls are under the per girl average. So kind of how do we, try to, keep those girls at least motivated to get past the first level or something like that. So we definitely advocated for, trying to put more money into the budget for this. Anything else? Okay, we'll move on.
Great. All right, so we have a sneak peek of the theme for next year.
Is Anne?
Annie still with us?
I am still with you.
Okay.
All I can tell you is, I can tell you that our theme then next year is the animal is a black-footed ferret. And so our theme is Brave, Fierce, Fun. And this obviously was voted on by the girls, so we're really excited. I know somebody asked earlier about a new cookie. Yes, there will be a new cookie. No, I don't know what it is, just like Angela does not know what it is. It has not been announced yet. So I believe it's forthcoming, but it's not here yet. We will be having, we will start getting, clip art for the coming year, just as we always do. We'll start to load into, our resources in late summer as we get that. Part of the reason we can't put in some of the resources earlier is because they do, obviously some of our people know what the new cookie is, and some of those resources show the new cookie. And so by GSUSA not releasing that information yet, we also can't release some of the clip art at this point. But we're excited about it.
Thank you, Anne.
And I think that's
It's a black-footed ferret.
yeah, that's what I had to write it all down just now. Black-footed ferret.
It's cuter than in the image than I expected it to be. So I was happy to see it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I like the Brave, Fierce, Fun.
Yeah, that's a cute one. So other than that,
I could actually even tell you the names. Let me grab it. I have my information. I have my ferret names. The ferret names are Shirley and Dolly. And one of the reasons that it's the Shirley, I'm not sure where the Dolly came from, but from Shirley, it's in Wyoming. I believe it's the Shirley Valley in Wyoming is where the largest colony of black-footed ferrets lives. So that's where the name Shirley came from.
Trip to Wyoming next year?
I know, right? That'll be a trip. So I think that is it. If anyone has any parting words, feel free to share. But thank you for the lively discussion. I think it was very helpful that you guys gave some very detailed examples and explanations for how we could improve the sale. Took plenty of notes, so thanks a lot. As I said before, on the cookie booth slides, once we share those, take a look, because I do think that, and I think it's a bigger conversation between, maybe even the service unit managers about how we could be more communal around the cookie booth experience for girls in service units. But as I think someone on the call shared, that would take, a whole lot of us, coming together and kind of creating a plan on what that could look like for cookie booths for our council. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We will send out the recording and the slides so you can take a better look at the all the data as well.
And there might be some comments that are in the chat that need to be addressed also.
Okay.
Yeah, I was trying to look through them a little bit.
Things that we didn't address? I haven't seen.
Well, I know that I saw some comments out there about the cookie managers. I'm not a cookie manager. I'm a cookie booth coordinator. But cookie managers about if they don't have a child, it's very difficult for them to assist the leaders with the digital cookie app. And I also found that a little bit difficult for me also because I don't have a child either. And it's difficult, but I'm a cookie troop manager. But it's also for my troop, but it's also difficult for me to help because I don't have any children that are Girl Scouts. So that's a challenge for both groups.
Yeah, I did see those comments there, and
Yeah.
it's something we have to figure out how to do.
Okay. I just wanted to make
Thank
sure
you.
you saw
Thank you
them.
for pointing it out.
Okay.
Gail,
Thank you.
Gail, I don't know if I was missing something, but like I would have people call me and say, "Hey, can you look up my daughter?" And I was not even finding them when searching for them.
Hmm.
Like they weren't even coming up in Digital Cookie as having an active account that I could see. So I was like, I really can't help you.
That's
And I
definitely
didn't really
something we'll
reach.
have to look
Yeah.
into, because I know, there's not a lot for a service unit to do in general, but to be able to help someone is important.
Exactly.
Yeah, I didn't reach out and ask about it because she finally figured it out on her own, but I felt really bad I couldn't help her.
No, definitely something to make a note of and find out
Thank
how
you.
we can get you in there and be able to see things.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to our concerns, and thank you.
Of course, thank
Oh,
you to everybody for
absolutely.
your feedback.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks for everything you did to support the cookie program.
Have a good night,
As you
everybody.
know, there is absolutely no way we could do it without you.
Have a good night, ladies.
You have a good
Thanks.
night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Night.